Heather Bastian says, so is this grounds for treason? Everybody knows a lot, or knows probably more than they want to know, about the potential of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian military intelligence. But Free Speech for People has been focused primarily on financial self-dealing that in the Constitution it says you cannot do.
Right.
Whether it's with foreign powers or in business within the United States. The Foreign Emoluments Clause, domestic emoluments. That's why Donald Trump has just lost millions of dollars.
Right.
The work that you've done began with that, even if this other stuff was addressed
Ends up
earlier.
being part of it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Because I'm not sure what Heather is focused on when she says this grounds for treason. Is it treason to use public office for self-enrichment financially?
So I wouldn't call it treason. What I would call it is a violation of the Constitution. And again, let's go back to what the founders were thinking about when they put these emoluments clauses into the Constitution. You know, one of the key things that they were concerned about was the possibility of foreign governments or of individual states or of members of Congress corrupting the president by giving him financial gains that would make him act in the interest of the people who were giving him the money, or in his own interest, as opposed to the interest of the United States and its people. So that gets to really kind of the foundational question of what the president's responsibility is in that office, and that is to protect the Constitution and to protect the security and the interests of the United States. And so it's not necessarily treason for him to engage in this self-dealing, but it is corruption that is violating the Constitution and that is rendering him unfit to hold office.
Okay, so I'm going to free you to go international if you want. But we know about all the Trump hotels within the United States. And there were Trump hotels being built in some very peculiar places around the world where there are human rights violations and other sort of national security issues. So I'm going to give you your pick. But where has there been a decision that has been made by our government since Trump was inaugurated that you think was not in the best interest of the American people, but rather pursuing a personal financial interest for Trump and his family?
Well, I'll give you one that comes from the environmental context. And before I was with Free Speech for People, I did a lot of work on energy and environmental law. And, you know, this is one that I think hasn't gotten a lot of coverage. But as you know, the Trump Organization owns 12 golf courses in the U.S. They also own some international golf courses. And the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers under the Obama administration had developed a rule called the Waters of the U.S. And the purpose of that rule was really to ensure that the drinking water for all people in the United States was being adequately protected. And so it made what had been a really muddy area of the law, sorry, I didn't intend that pun, but it made what had been a really ambiguous area of the law much clearer. It set up categories of types of waters that would definitely be considered waters of the United States. And so if a developer was planning to renovate a golf course, you know, maybe so that the PGA could hold the women's tour there,
Another
or maybe a seniors tournament there, then the golf course owner would have had to apply for permits, which can cost thousands of dollars. They would have had to be more careful about when they applied pesticides. You know, they would have had to take a lot more actions than they would have otherwise. So one of the first things that Trump did when he came into office was he signed an executive order. This was in February, basically telling the EPA to rescind the Waters of the U.S. rule that the Obama administration had developed. He's directing the EPA, the federal government, to get rid of a rule that likely would have cost him thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, at each of the golf courses he owns. And he's doing so at the expense of protections that are meant to keep people safe in terms of drinking water. To me, the fact that he's willing to put profits before public health and the public health of his own citizens is one of the most craven acts that we've seen.